episode 12 of Francofille Knits, a creative podcast. My name is Devin, and this is where I document my crafting. Most of the time it's knitting, sometimes spinning, designing, sewing, all sorts of good stuff. Got a lot to talk about today, but I want to start by thanking you for tuning in. Whether you're a new viewer or a subscribing viewer, I really just want to say thank you and let you know that I appreciate you choosing to spend some time with me today. I know there are a lot of knitting podcasts you could be choosing to watch, so really it does mean the world to me that you are here even for a minute. Let's see, sorry, I'm pulling my notes up, make sure I'm staying on task. So I've got a lot to talk about today. I'm going to be talking about some works in progress. No finished objects to this week, but I'm really close on a couple things. I want to talk to you a little bit about a new design I've got going. Follow up a little bit on a previous design. Talk to you about my adventures with my new spinning wheel. Give you a little bit more detail about the upcoming Cameo Loco knit along that we've got going on for the month of April. I've got some acquisitions to talk about, and I want to finish up with some pod love, talk about some other podcasts that I'm really enjoying or loving this week, and a little bit of blather too. So, with all that said, there's a lot to talk about, so let's just dive right in. Let's start with works in progress. These are the same three things we talked about last week, but I've made some progress, some very significant progress actually on all of them. So none of them are finished, but let's start out with the hoe that I've got. If you'll remember last week, I talked about how I was starting over on my Little Prince socks. This is socks knit out of one of the Little Prince colorways that Opal has carried. And I had been doing them with this sort of a modified seed stitch kind of pattern, and I wasn't liking how it was knitting up, so I ripped it back to the ribbing and started over in just a plain vanilla sock. And I got one done. Hooray, hooray, I have a hoe. Isn't that exciting? Yeah, hoe, half finished object. Actually have a hoe and a half, which is kind of fun. Half maybe generous here, but yeah, I got this all done Friday maybe, Saturday, and then put it down for a couple days to work on some other stuff, and I've gotten a little bit done. This was done, I think, on Monday, so I'm almost to the part where I start messing around with the heel stuff for the Fish Lips Kiss heel. Let's see if you can see that. I mentioned before I am doing a slip stitch reinforced Fish Lips Kiss heel. You can see it kind of starts up here and then goes down about halfway through where the Fish Lips Kiss heel starts getting turned. Hoping you can actually see it on there, but I actually added 2 extra stitches to the instep on either side, per Mina's suggestion. That's Mina from the Knitting Expat. And I know I've talked about how I'm less than enamored with the Fish Lips Kiss heel before on the podcast, in part because my normal measurements may be kind of generous here, but also mentioned how I hate measuring my work. Like pulling out tape measure and actually measuring it. I usually try my socks on, and that's kind of how I figure out where I'm going to stop for the toe decreases. And so I actually stopped for the toe decreases about half an inch sooner than I normally would. So the foot here is about half an inch shorter than I usually knit my feet for socks. And I've tried this one on, obviously, and I really, really love the way it's fitting. So I think that may be my solution for the issues I was having with the Fish Lips Kiss heel. The reinforcement along the heel here is actually really comfortable to wear so far. I mean, granted, I threw them on for all of maybe 5, smacked in the face with a sock. Threw them on for all of maybe 5 minutes, so we'll see how they actually end up wearing, but I'm excited. I'm really excited. I'm really happy with the way these are turning out, and obviously you can tell these are a very stripy sock, and so I will be submitting these as part of Candace of Pin Feather and Pearls Stripy Sock Knit Along. I think it's like hashtag Stripy Sock Cal. I want to say that one's running until April 15th, so I've got a little bit of time to finish this second sock up. But I don't think it'll take me all the way until April 15th. Though, possibly, depending on how long I have to put it on hold for some other things. Not only that, but I'm really thrilled with how quickly these knit up. I know I've talked also recently about how I've lost my sock knitting mojo over the past couple weeks. My socks just weren't turning out the way I wanted them to. I wasn't really thrilled with the way any of them were knitting up, but I think my sock knitting mojo is back, so I don't want to put these down for too long. As much as I have other things I want to knit on, I do want to keep my momentum going. All right. Let's move on to the thing that was really distracting me. Oh, before we do though, this is living in the first project bag I ever made. Right? You can see it's knit. Oh, I wish. I used I think it's duck fabric, like a canvas. Two different things. It's lined, and I followed Nicole of Hugh Loco's tutorial for this. Alright, the thing that has been keeping me from finishing those socks, the reason they're not a finished object this week, this is my Waiting for Rain shawl. It is a pattern by Sylvia Bobilvia. You can see the really cool thing about this pattern, here, I'll show you down here where it's really obvious, is that it has the short row lace inserts. They're actually just so much fun to knit, right? This pattern is really clearly written. It's really, really fun to knit. It's everything I love about garter stitch shawls and lace shawls all in one, right? And I even messed around with striping with this. So really, I mean, it's everything I enjoy about shawl knitting all in one project. But also, at this point, everything I dislike about shawl knitting as well, because I now have, I think it's probably a fairly conservative estimate that I've got about 400 stitches on the needles right now. I'm about, let's see, probably about 5 rows maybe from finally being done and ready to cast off. Right, you can see I've got the last giant lace repeat in there. So I just have a couple more rows of gray to do, and then I'm ready to bind off on this. And honestly, these last couple rows are probably going to take me a good evening's worth of knitting, a couple hours to do, just because the rows have gotten so long, and I just want it to be done. I just want to wear this shawl at this point before it gets too hot out. I don't know. I'm debating how I want to finish the shawl. There is in the Hacking the Waiting for Rain pattern, a version of the bind off that has, sorry, I'm trying to pull up an image for you guys on my iPad. There's a version of this that has this really cool lacy picot bind off. And again, we know I love a good picot bind off. I do. I love this lacy picot bind off, but at the same time, I just want to be done, and I don't know that I want to spend the extra, possibly couple hours that it would take me to do this. But here's the image. Here's the bind off I'm talking about. How gorgeous is that? I don't know. So while I do really want to get this finished, I don't know that I want to... Debating, internal struggle with my knitting. Right? Am I going to be disappointed if I don't do that bind off? Or am I going to be happy with the final product if I just do a normal stretchy bind off? I mean, there's already enough going on in this shawl right? Does it really need that extra bit of lace? I don't know. Especially because I did a lot more striping than that example in that PDF. Maybe there's already enough going on, and it's got a little bit more sporty of a feel with the two colors that I picked. Sporty is really not the correct term, but it's not. I don't know, guys. I'm struggling. So I love this pattern. I know I've been going on and on and on about how much I love it over the past couple weeks. I'm knitting this as part of a knit along with Kristen of the Yarngasm podcast, and I'm knitting it out of Frabjous fibers. Two colorways are Goat's Beard, that's the gray color, and Cabbages and Kings, just the green. And I love Frabjous fibers. I love this Cheshire Cat base. I may be getting more this weekend. I'll talk about that later. But yeah, if you can get your hands on some Frabjous fibers, if you can get your hands on this Cheshire Cat base, do it. It's great. It's so much fun to work with. It's really, really, really nice to knit. And it's super soft too, which is great. All right, last work in progress to show you guys. And this is my Cozy Memories blanket. Now, I think I just added these two squares on since I last talked to you guys. This one here was part of my Knitting X-Pack swap with Madeline, right? And this one is actually, I already added in a square from my Little Prince socks, right? And you can see that I'm creating my blanket in such a way that it's giving me this diamond motif with the mitering. And I talked last week about how I finally figured out how to correctly get that worked out so that the edges on some of these don't look messed up, right? This edge here between these two is much nicer than this edge. But you can see it's mitering that's going in the same direction, right? So, happy with how this is turning out. Still enjoying knitting on this, which is exciting. But yeah, I'm just adding a couple squares as I go when I get the time. Great car knitting, I gotta say. Obviously, when I'm the passenger in the car, Jordan and I have been doing a lot of driving around lately, so yeah, I've had some time to get this worked on. And this is living in my Hue Loco project bag. Right. Again, gold standard for project bags. Love these. So good. And the thing is huge, right? I've got the blanket in there, and I've got just bags and piles of minis living in there. Love it. Alright, let's move on to designs. I want to start by talking to you a little bit more about the amboise shawl. So, I think as I mentioned last episode, my test knitters are almost done. No, I take it back. As of today, everybody is done. I've been getting all of their pictures and comments and all of that, making the updates to the pattern as needed, and I'm so excited, guys. It's so close. It's so close to being released. Not only that, but my tech editor has gotten her comments back to me too. Super helpful. Really, really pleased with the final product I'm going to be able to share with you. So right now it looks like the release date I'm aiming for is April 14th. So 2 weeks from today, which is crazy. And in addition to all of the excitement about the pattern finally being released, I am collaborating with Jamie of Beautiful Mess Yarn Works, and we are putting together kits for the amboise shawl. So the kits are going to include 2 skeins of yarn in a variety of bases. She's got a Stellina base she's releasing it on, a merino nylon blend, and a merino silk blend. All of the kits are going to include 2 colors of yarn on the same base, and I'm really, really excited with how the kits are turning out. She keeps texting me pictures of the yarn as it's being dyed and as it's drying and all that, and it's just gorgeous. And because we are so excited about this collaboration, Jamie and I have decided to do a giveaway on Instagram. Today is March 30th. If you go and look on either of our Instagram feeds, I'm at BDevin and she's at Beautiful Mess Yarnworks. You can scroll back in our pictures, our posts, and you'll find the post for the giveaway. It's closing on April 4th, and we are giving away one of the complete kits. So it includes a skein of pistachio colored yarn and buttercream yarn. So it's really, really pretty green and yellow combination. Plus, you'll get a code for downloading the the pattern once it's released. And yeah, the giveaway ends April 1st. So hopefully, if you haven't already done what we say in the post to sign up for the giveaway, you guys will have a chance once this gets posted for you guys to run over and do that. But yeah, the kits are actually going to be on sale through Jamie's Etsy shop as well, starting April 1st, so that you'll have plenty of time to get the yarn in order and all that stuff for when the pattern gets released. She's opening up some pre-orders as well with the kits, so yeah. Oh, I'm so excited about it, guys. I've knit up swatches on the 3 bases that we're doing the kits on, and they are so nice to knit. The hand is great, and the drape of the resulting fabric is really, really great too. So the amboise shawl will turn out beautifully if you end up knitting it on any of these yarns. In terms of new designs, because this one's almost ready to come out. It's time for me to start on a new shawl. I'm only going to show you guys a little bit. No, I'm going to show you what I've got so far. I'm debating back and forth. This new design is, let's say, first of all, it's living in my, unfortunately, cat hair covered Bags by Terry bag. And this bag is so great. Really nice sturdy handle. It's got pockets inside. It's super deep. You can see it's got 3 skeins of yarn plus my project all living in there with tons of space. And it's got little pockets and things in it. It's great. It's a great bag. Really recommend Bags by Terry. You can find them on Etsy. This is the beginning of, at least, my Chenonceau shawl. So Chenonceau is a chateau. Again, I'm staying on theme, right? My first collection of shawls that I'm working on are all going to be based on chateaus in France, so castles. And Chenonceau is a really cool castle. It's really iconic. It's built so it spans this river, right? So it's kind of got a bridge quality to it too. I'll talk more once I have more knit up of the specifics of the inspiration and things like that, but you can see that I've got a little bit going on so far. And I'm knitting this, obviously this is not a triangular shawl. The construction's a little bit different than, than the amboise shawl. Yeah, I'm trying to think what other things about the construction I want to tell you right now before there's really a ton to show you. But I've got a couple different motifs going on here, and then there's also going to be an applied lace border, because I can't get away from lace. I love it too much. But yeah, lots going on. Really like it. Still, again, very architectural. But at least for most of the shawl, there's not going to be any long rows to knit with. Not until you start adding on the lace border. But yeah, I am knitting this out of Quince & Company Turn. All right. There's a tag you can see. Quince & Company Turn, which is American wool and silk. Again, I think you guys know at this point my love of wool silk blends for lace knitting. And then the 2 colorways it's eventually going to be in are Stonington and Oyster. I'm covering up price tags because, I don't know, you don't need to see that. So the oyster is the one that I've been using already, that you've already seen, and then this is Stonington. It's another sort of gray combo. And I gotta say, Quince & Company yarn holds up really well. The number of times I've knitted up and then ripped it out, knitted up, ripped it out, knitted up, ripped it out. And, I mean, it's still really, really nice. I will say, in full disclosure, that I did actually wash and block this section last night. Just from the way the pattern is knit up, it was pulling a little bit on itself and was getting a little bit nervous about the puckering and things that was happening. So I blocked it just to see if it would end up blocking out nicely, or, you know, if I should really redesign again, go back to the drawing board. And I love how it blocked out. I did use blocking wires and all that kind of stuff. Like I talked about last week, I'm all about blocking wires when I'm blocking lace shawls. I think I'm going to put a picture here so you guys can see what I'm talking about, of what that ended up looking like. Really excited about this one. I'll keep you guys posted on how it ends up knitting up. So, spinning this week. Still playing with the fuzzlings from Deb of Fondant Fibers. I also tried my hand at plying this week, which I talked to you guys a little bit about last week, and I have a lot to learn about plying, it turns out. So I attempted, I showed you guys my singles last week, from the braid of Superwash Merino from, what was it, Spotted Circus. Spotted Circus Farms, which is a local to me alpaca and llama farm. And it spun up really, really nicely on the wheel. I had a lot of fun spinning it, and I was really, really excited to ply it. And I think I must have missed a step or something. Something that the YouTube tutorials I was watching just did not mention. I must have skipped something. I must have missed something, because as I was attempting to Navajo ply the yarn, right? And I mean, honestly, it's not the prettiest ply. I'm fine with that. I'm playing around and learning. So the fact that it's very much art yarn, I'm totally fine with. That doesn't bother me really. Right? You can kind of see. Again, not the most beautiful yarn in the world, but my first yarn, so I'm pleased. I'm okay with it. I don't know what happened, but the single started getting unwound, and eventually it just pulled apart in my hand as I was attempting to ply it, right? Everything I read and saw said that you have to spin the wheel the opposite direction of how you spun the singles, right? When you're plying, if you spun the singles counterclockwise, you have to ply clockwise, right? Because that's supposed to, I suppose, preserve the twist in the plies. It's my thought anyway. But my plies all came untwisted. Maybe it's a thing about how I thought I had overspun the singles, so I'm not sure what happened. It must be a tension issue or a speed issue or something like that. If any of you have any experience spinning and plying and can explain to me how I screwed this up, please let me know. I would really, really, really appreciate learning from my mistakes. But yeah, so that broke as I was trying to Navajo ply it, or chain ply it. So rather than deal with the frustration of that again, I decided to wind my singles into a ball, and then into a center pole ball, and then ply the singles on themselves. So one strand coming from the center, one from the outside. And I was able to get through the rest of the singles with that. But again, you can see that it definitely came untwisted a little bit, right? My singles definitely loosened up a lot. And I don't know what I did wrong. So, yeah. Rather than just kind of stare open-mouthed into the screen, into this camera again, while I look at that. What happened there, right, with this one here? I'm doing something wrong, and I don't know what. If any of you have any resources or any advice that you can offer me, I would really, really, really love to hear it. Again, comments thread, in the Ravelry group, or, comment below. That's great too. Yeah, I don't know. I want to be better. I want this to not happen. All the same, it's really pretty. I'm kind of in awe of the fact that I have created yarn. It's magical. Any issues of it loosening aside, I made yarn. That's kind of crazy to me. And it's not the worst yarn I've ever seen either. It's a lot better than I imagined it would be. So, adventures in learning how to spin, right? There's gonna be issues somewhere. Alright, knit along time. As I mentioned last week, the ladies of Get Lit and Knit and I are co-hosting a knit along. This knit along we're calling the Cameo Loco knit along because we are knitting up the Cameo shawl by Polina Popiolik. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that something close to correctly. But yeah, we're knitting the Cameo shawl out of Hue Loco yarn. And I talked last week a lot about the origins of this knit along, how Allie and I both got skeins of Stardust, and how we were searching forever trying to find the right pattern to knit this gorgeous yarn in. Sorry, Layla keeps jumping up on the couch and distracting me. Full disclosure, I think this is the 4th time I've attempted to talk about this knit along. So hopefully she stays down next to me and I don't get too distracted. Probably not, though. But yeah, so I'm going to be knitting my Cameo shawl out of my skein of Stardust. There we go. You can see it's all these beautiful blues and purples, and there's even a little bit of ochre in there. And, this skein of Beautiful Mess Yarnworks in Ominous Skies. Also a Stellina base. Right? Really excited to see how these pair together. I think they're going to be beautiful together. So the cool thing about the Cameo shawl is that it's kind of like the Waiting for Rain shawl. It combines garter stitch, striping, and a little bit of lace. So the main body of the shawl, right, that is primarily garter stitch, is going to be out of this Stardust, for mine at least. And then this more tonal yarn I'm going to use for the lace section, right? Because I think the lace will actually show up really nicely on this, whereas lace in something like this, it's just going to get lost, right? The yarn isn't going to be highlighted to its best advantage, and the lace is just going to go away. Now, lace may actually be a fairly generous term. Sorry, cat hair all over my face. So I'm calling it a lace section, but really it's more of an eyelet section, right? Diagonal eyelets. So I read the pattern over this morning in preparation for casting on this weekend, and in preparation for talking to you guys about it too. And I really think that this is a really well written and simple pattern. Simple's not the right word for it, but it's really accessible, and I think this is really a pattern that would be doable at most any skill level. If you can increase and decrease, you can do this pattern, really. There's nothing too terribly bizarre or complicated about it. And and again, the finished product is just so beautiful that I think it would actually be a really good pattern for advanced knitters, but also for more novice knitters, or at least novice shawl knitters. Oh yeah, prizes. The best part of any knit along, right? I've already opened up a chatter thread in my Ravelry group. The ladies of Gitlet Knit, I'm sure, are going to be doing that soon too. And feel free to double knit. Post your double dip. Post your finished objects in both our groups, and you'll be entered for all the possible prizes. Right now, I'm thinking I'm only going to draw from the finished object thread for the prizes, but we'll see. It depends on how many prizes end up getting accumulated. So far, I'm going to show you 2 of the prizes I've got here. I think actually I've shown you both before, so, or at least you've already seen these, possibly. I'm going to start with, if you saw this week's episode of Q Loco, you know that Nicole has decided to donate some yarn as prizes for this knit along, right? Again, no apologies for crinkling. Embrace the crinkling. All the crinkling today is all good stuff for you guys. So if you hear the crinkling, love the crinkling. But yeah, so Nicole sent me some yarn to give away to you guys as prizes for this knit along, and it just showed up in the mail today. So perfect timing, Nicole. Thank you. Let's see here. So I've got 2 skeins of yarn. I'm going to keep them together as a prize pack, so you'll win both of these. The top one here is Puffin, and it is on the Glitz base, which is a 75% superwash merino, 20% nylon, 5% stellina yarn. And I've knit, I knit my Atwood shawl out of this yarn, not this colorway, but this base. And my Stardust, my skein of Stardust is the same base, so I can definitely vouch for how awesome it is. This bottom one is, the colorway is called Sagebrush, and it is on her Phyllis sock blend, which is an 80-20 superwash merino nylon blend. And I've got a couple skeins, a couple mini skeins in my memory blanket that are on this base, and it's really nice too. I'm really, it's gonna be hard giving this bad boy, this combo up to you guys. But that's just how much I love you. I will do that. They pair so nicely together. I honestly, this combo would make a beautiful shawl. Possibly a beautiful amboise shawl. Just saying. Use this for the main body of the lace, right? The main lace panel. This for the border. It'd be gorgeous. Just throwing that out there, guys. But yeah, so this will be one possible prize for you to win. Second possible prize I want to show you guys that you could win, again, comes from Jamie of Beautiful Mess Yarn Works, right? So, I'm knitting out of both of these women's yarn for the knit along. I'm giving you prizes from these 2 dyers, so that seems appropriate to me for some reason. This is a skein of, oh, I can't remember what she calls this base, but it is a superwash merino and silk base, which, right, we know that I love silk. Wool silk blends for lace knitting, love it. Sorry, I'm trying to read the label while I show you guys this yarn. The name of the colorway is All the Feels, which is just perfect for this. Alright, all those cool colors, all the speckling, all the variegation. Alright, turn it around so you guys could really... Again, it's a wrench for me to have to give this skein of yarn up for you guys, but I did get it for you. So I should probably be a grown-up and actually give it away. But yeah, I've paired this skein with a Notions Nanny that Jamie made and sent along for you guys. This is handmade. It's perfect for your knitting notions. It's really well constructed. Looks really solid. And yeah, actually looks great with that yarn. Another beautiful kit for you guys to get. So again, finished objects thread, post your FOs in there. There won't be chatter in there. I'll end up deleting any chatter posts that show up. So please don't do it. Don't make me do that. But this could be yours too. If you're interested in donating prizes for either this knit along or the upcoming ones I've got planned for this summer, send me an email at francofilleknits@gmail.com. I'll write that down here too. Or PM me on Ravelry. The other thing to note about prizes and things like that, I think I mentioned this last week, if you knit your cameo shawl, like I'm doing, using at least one skein of Hebe Loco, you can post your finished object twice in that thread, sort of get a double entry, give you an extra chance of winning one of those two prizes, or any other prizes that may pop up along the way. But yeah, the knit along starts Friday, April 1st, so it's coming up real quick here. So get excited, get the pattern, get your yarns together, and we will talk more about this next week. Alright, on to fibery goodness, otherwise known as stash enhancements. So you guys know my birthday was a couple weeks ago, my birthday month, and I don't know, birthday presents keep rolling in, and people in my life just know to buy me yarn apparently, which is exciting. My Wednesday night knit friend, Kelly, gifted me with 2 beautiful skeins of yarn, both as a combination, birthday present and thank you for teaching me how to knit, or coaching me through my beginning knitting present. So she went to Door County, Wisconsin over spring break and picked me up some local yarn there, right? This is from my Door County socks, which is locally dyed up there. This beautiful variegated blue sock yarn. Let's see here. Which is a superwash merino nylon blend, and it's a fairly generous skein too. It's 100 grams and 462 yards. Super soft, super soft. And it's got a whole story here on the tag about the name of the color. The colorway here is Door Horizon, right? Door County is this. Okay, I'm gonna hold this up. I know we usually do the hand thing for Michigan, but if you look at Wisconsin, it also kind of has this shape. Door County is a little peninsula here of Wisconsin that sticks out into Lake Michigan. So Door Horizon being the name of the colorway is kind of talking about all of the watery views, all those lake views. The other skein she got me is this Manos del Uruguay. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that one. Alegria, and it's just this gorgeous primary color, bright skein. I love when people push me out of my color comfort zone when they get me yarn. This yarn is beautiful, and it's so not something I would have picked out for myself, but not in a bad way, right? Like, I'm in love with it, and I wish it were something I would grab for myself, but it's I don't know how to coherently tell you how much I love these colors and how, it's this pop of sunshine in my stash. Everything else is muted grays and blues and greens, and then I have this, right? Part of me wants to make some really awesome socks out of this. It is a fingering weight yarn. It's a superwash merino nylon blend. It's so squishy. Part of me wants to make a stuffed animal out of this. Knit a stuffy out of this. I think it would be super cute. I found an adorable pattern on Ravelry, and of course, the name has completely escaped me. Hopefully I will think far enough ahead and write it out down here for you. But it's a hippopotamus that's knit out of sock yarn. And it's free, and it's so cute. And I just feel like this super awesome bright yarn would be an amazing stuffy. And not only that, but the ladies of Legacy Knits are co-hosting a stuffy along. They're hosting a stuffy along for the month of April. I've been going back and forth on what stuffed animal I want to knit. I'm also looking at doing an Elijah the Elephant, which is a pattern by Isolde Teague. I don't know. I want to do both. Of course, I can always knit more stuffed animals. It doesn't have to be for a stuffy along, for a knit along. But this would be an awesome stuffed animal. And it's so soft. Right? It would just be so good as a stuffed animal. We'll see. I'll keep you guys posted. But yeah, so that was one stash enhancement this week. The other one is more of a fiber acquisition than a knitting sort of thing. But because I am just so excited about this wheel, I got myself a beautiful braid of Polworth from Narwhal Needleworks. The colorway is Sepia, and it is 100% Polworth. It's so soft. And from everything I've read, Polworth is supposed to be just absolutely great to spin up. And again, like I just said, this is pushing me out of my color comfort zone. This is 100% in my color comfort zone. No apologies. I like my earth tones. I like my colors muted. It's just kind of how I live my life, guys. It's a thing. But yeah, I'm holding myself back from spinning this. It's just, this beautiful cloud. And it smells so good. Sorry, itch. Yeah. I'm holding myself back from spinning this up until I figure out my plying issues. So I'm going to play around a little bit more with the fuzzlings that I've got, practice plying, and then I'm going to finally dip into this bad boy. Look at this. The colors in this, though. It's muted, it's earth tones, but it's not boring, right? Like, it's got a lot going on in there. And I went with this colorway. I must have spent hours looking at stuff on her Etsy shop. And again, this was Narwhal Needleworks. And I went with this colorway instead of some of the more colorful ones, because I don't necessarily want to have to mess with sort of color management right now. I got a little bit out of that going on with the previous stuff I've spun up, and until I really get a good handle on what I'm doing, I don't necessarily, so I'm going to hold off on putting this in the crinkly bag until I finish talking to you. Yeah, until I get better at spinning and learning how to deal with different colors in my fiber, I want to hold off on getting really nice, colorful stuff to spin. You know, I don't want to say waste my money, but I will feel more comfortable learning how to do everything on this than I would on something from Narwhal Needleworks that's really, really colorful. Do you know what I mean? As I want to set myself up for success, basically, right? As I'm learning how to do this, I want to make sure I'm giving myself projects with final products that I'll be really pleased with. So I think I'm going to be really pleased with however this turns out, assuming I can figure out how to ply correctly. Again, any advice, guys, I really, really, really would welcome. But yeah, so that is it for stash enhancements for this week. Alright, the last thing to talk about before I get on to blather, it's a little bit of pod love. First of all, I want to say thank you to KT of Inside Number 23 for the super sweet shout out she gave me this last week. I have no idea. I have no doubt that that's probably where all of my new subscribers this week came from. So if you're here from KT's suggestion, I hope you're not disappointed. I hope you've enjoyed what you've had to see. Yeah, that was just really surprising and really cool to see. I really appreciated that. The two other podcasts I wanted to specifically mention, not for knit-alongs or other things like that I'm taking part in or want to take part in. Obviously, all of those podcasts that I've talked about that for knit-along purposes, Get Lit and Knit, Q Loco, love those women. Also, Pin Feathers and Pearls and Legacy Knits and Yarngasm. I've already talked to you guys about how much I love those podcasts. Continues to be true. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing their knit-alongs. But yeah, two other podcasts that I really want to recommend for you guys this week. The first one is a brand new podcast that is really, really, really excellent. So one of the hosts of this podcast I've been following on Ravelry. She and I have been following each other on Instagram for a while now, and I've really enjoyed watching all of her Instagram posts. And then I noticed that she, I guess, was starting a podcast with one of her friends. This is Kelly and Kari of Notorious, and they've got one episode out, and they are fantastic. They are so funny. Their projects are fantastic. Their perspective on knitting is really, really great. I love their descriptions of their visits to local yarn stores. They are in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which is a somewhat rural-ish area of Pennsylvania, of central Pennsylvania. Not too far from where I actually went to college. And coincidentally, they happen to know Jamie of Beautiful Mess Yarn Works, which I didn't even realize until this last week. We live in a very small knitting world. But yeah, so Notorious with Kelly and Kari. Carrie? Oh, I may have just screwed that up. Either way, doesn't matter. They're amazing. Go check them out. They are so funny. The other one, which is not a new podcast, it's new to me, but it's not new in the knitting podcasting world, is The Knitting Broomstick with Jilly. She's Vegan Jilly on Instagram. And again, it's another one where I was following her on Instagram and ended up following or checking out her podcast after seeing an update or something. And I'm so glad I did. I think I must have watched 5 or 6 episodes over the last week. I really sat down and just binged. I love her. Again, she's hysterical. She's so funny. I love all of her knitting fandom, or her fandom knit-along she's got planned out and she's done over the past couple months. Just, yeah, she cracks me up. Her most recent episode, she was talking about going through her closets and stuff like that and finding all of her unfinished objects, projects we all have sitting around that are just kind of half finished forever. And going through and deciding whether she wanted to keep knitting on them or whether she was going to frog them or toss them, right? And I'm totally on board with that. We're going to be moving, as I've already talked about. We're moving this summer, so I'm going to have to go through my stash and my projects and all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to have to join along in the finish it or frog it thing she's got going on. So I'm going to be right there with her. But yeah, check out The Knitting Broomstick and Notorious. Alright, finally onto Blather. So, a couple things coming up in my life this weekend. First of all, I've got YarnCon, which is going to be up in Chicago this weekend, April 2nd and 3rd. And I'm super, super excited about it. I've actually never been to one of these sort of knitting events like that. Planning on going on both Saturday and Sunday. I'm taking classes on Sunday. One on dyeing yarn with Kool-Aid and one with dyeing yarn with acid dyes. So I'm really, really excited about that. And then Saturday I'm planning on going just to meet up with people, but also to check out, the shopping. to be honest. The shopping, the booths and stuff like that. So that's really exciting. I'm meeting up with the ladies of Get Lit and Knit, my apparent podcasting besties. Think we're getting dinner or something, and we're gonna be hanging out on Saturday. Really, really looking forward to seeing them again. It feels like I just saw them, but it's really more because I talk to them all the time. With planning yeah, never mind. You don't need to know my personal life. You probably don't care, so it's okay. Oh, I'm awkward sometimes, guys. Thank God for tea. Yeah, so I'm meeting up with them. I'm also going to be meeting up with Carrie of Carrie My Heart. We still need to finalize some plans, Carrie, but we definitely need to meet up. And then also, meeting up with some other Chicago knitters too. Where now I'm pausing because I don't know if I got permission to like announce who they are or not. So if we've talked about meeting up, you know who you are. And I'm very excited to meet you as well. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, going back a little bit to Podlove and also talking about YarnCon. Some of the recent like meetups I've got scheduled actually came about from watching Sue of Legacy Knits podcast Periscopes. I don't know, this last week I've just been all about Periscope and watching Sue's posts every morning as she's going about her day and talking about her knitting, and they're so much fun. I've used Periscope in the past, mostly to follow non-knitting related stuff, and I'm really glad I'm checking it out. I'm revisiting Periscope because it's really, really cool. Not sure if I would ever Periscope myself, but I mean, if there's interest, maybe I will. But anyway, if you use Periscope, you definitely should be following Sue. She's Knit24 and she's fantastic. But again, you probably know that because you've watched Legacy Knits. The other thing that's been going on that's part of why I've been doing so much knitting and car knitting, not knitting and driving. Jordan's been driving, I've been knitting. Is we are still in the process of looking for a house up in northern Indiana for next year with Jordan's new job and all that. And we're getting close to a house, and one of the ones we're looking at is super rural. Super rural. Rural juror. Still so awkward, guys. I'm sorry. But yeah, as I'm sure I've talked about before, I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago. I've lived in college towns basically since I left my parents for college. I don't have any frame of reference for rural living. And one of the houses that we're looking at that we're both actually really excited about, I mean, it's a farmhouse, right? It's on 3.5 acres. It's on it's off of a gravel road. It's rural. And I'm really excited about it, but I'm nervous too because I don't know what that would be like. I don't know what it would be like to live somewhere so remote. I mean, we're talking like cable is not an option, right? Coax cable has not been run to this house. We would have to do satellite. That is the only option. In terms of internet, I think DSL may not be an option. It may be that I don't even understand this internet option, but Jordan was trying to explain it to me, where there are giant like microwave towers, and you have to like have a receiver pointed at the giant tower miles away in order to get wireless to your house, right? What? This is not real life? Is this? I don't understand. Like, this is... I don't understand, but at the same time, I'm so excited about this house and this property and everything. I don't know if any of you have any experience with living rurally. Again, please reach out to me and let me know what it's like, because I mean, I've never even had like well water or septic. Like, I don't know how this works. Like, wow. Yeah, no, I literally have always had city water and like sewer systems. I have no idea what I'm getting myself into, guys. Please help. Please send advice. If you have any, I would really, really, really appreciate it. But yeah, that's what's going on with me. So hopefully I'll get some knitting done this weekend. There will definitely be lots of things to talk about on the podcast next week based on whatever does happen this weekend. But yeah, so yeah, all of that being said, this is where I will leave you for the week. Thank you again for tuning in, and I will talk to you guys again next week. Bye. Alright, Layla, you can come say hi for a minute. Yes, hello. Are you happy? I'm gonna have to start over with my knit along information. Yes, you're a sweet, happy girl. Oh, kitten. I will be forever covered in cat hair. Just a fact of life for me, unfortunately.